Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the ChannelVision Podcast. As we welcome First Orion in particular, we have the channel chief from First Orion. His name, Mike Coleman. Mike, how are you doing today?
Well, Brady, thank you for having us.
I'm very excited to speak with you guys. We also have Mark Sanger. Mark is the president and the founder of 448 Recruitment. The tie-in there, we'll get to it very shortly. But Mark, how's it going today?
It's going very well, Brady. And to echo Mike's comments, thank you for having me this afternoon.
Oh, of course. We're going to have a lot of fun with it, I promise. Now, we've gathered here today to talk about First Orion's branded calling solutions and how they can help enterprises kind of improve their CX and their EX. We're talking about increased phone call answer and engagement rates and stuff like that. Very exciting stuff, really. If we could get started, Mike, I'm going to kick it off with you. What exactly is branded calling?
That's a great question, Brady. And so simply said, nobody answers the phone anymore if it comes through essentially as a blank call with either just a traditional unidentified number or worse yet, with a scam or a spam tag. Nobody answers it. So we have a solution that allows the business to identify themselves by name on a 32-character text string, which allows them to tell the person they're calling, who's calling, and why. It's a relatively simple solution that has had tremendous success in the marketplace. And for those that have embraced it so far, as you'll hear from Mark and his companies and customers, the end result is just super innovative and powerful and has gotten wonderful traction here in the market.
It sounds really straightforward. What sort of problems does it help solve for businesses today?
Well, we have a number of customers that obviously companies that are making outbound calls where they're trying to reach a customer to satisfy a question that they had, to try and reach a prospect that they're trying to reach. Or in fact, in some cases, when you're on hold forever and they say, instead of holding for another 28 minutes, just press this number and then we'll call you back. Well, when companies call back, it comes through as an unidentified number. And even though you're expecting the call, you don't answer it because you don't know who it is. And so we are able to essentially offer a solution that allows you to, in that 32-character string, identify the company that's calling and why. So, XYZ Bank, fraud detection, because they suspect that your credit card has been compromised, right? Would be a good example of a reason. Or you're expecting an appliance delivery and they tell you they're going to be there between 2 and 6 p.m. Well, the driver calls from XYZ company and they're en route with your refrigerator, but you don't answer because it doesn't say, the big box retailer appliance en route, which is what we allow them to do now. And it has effectively changed their whole experience, both at the customer level and also at the business level, because now their delivery success in that example is much higher because they've been able to tell the customer that they're calling and that they're en route with their refrigerator, for example.
Okay, it sounds like there's a lot of really kind of cool and great applications really for branded calling. If we're to look at specifically improving customer experience, employee experience, operational efficiency, how does branded calling kind of help in all those areas?
Yeah, actually, we've had some really interesting examples. So we sell our solution to a lot of call centers that are making outbound calls on behalf of themselves as a company or on behalf of other companies that they're calling for. And it was an interesting and kind of surprising benefit because many of those call centers have a high turnover rate with the agents that are in the call center. And some of that has to do with the fact that it's hard for an agent to call somebody and when they do answer, to convince them they're not trying to sell them an auto warranty, for example, right? They're from a real company and they're calling because there's a real need or a question or something to that effect. And so what we found is when the call center embraces our technology and makes an outbound call that says who's calling and why, the agent's experience is much better. Therefore, they're happier because they don't spend the first 30 seconds trying to convince them they're not, a scammer, so to speak, or a spammer. And so it's helped on that side. And then it helps the businesses that they're calling because now they have a more satisfied customer. And we measure that in lots of different ways in terms of first call answer rate, talk time, which a lot of companies measure as a measure of success. If the call lasts more than X number of seconds, they consider that a success because there's engagement both on a customer sat or selling them something or to that nature. So we've seen it successful in many different realms. And you'll hear Mark talk about a specific instance with his company that was super powerful for sure. And I'm anxious to hear him tell you that.
I'm anxious to hear that as well. But before we kind of jump over to Mark, how long does it actually take for a business to get started with the branded calling? Like, what's the setup for that?
Yeah, actually, it's surprisingly simple. So as you can imagine, we have to make sure that we protect the carrier network. So the first thing we do is ask the company that is interested in subscribing to our service to give us the A numbers, which are the numbers they're calling from. And we match that up with the company that owns it. So if XYZ company gives us 100 numbers, we make sure that they physically own those numbers to make sure that there's not an intercept, if you will, or a spoof enablement there. So once we vet those numbers against that customer, then we load them into our portal. They've been pre-vetted, and essentially at that point, we then allow the end customer, or in this case, the agent or the reseller, to be able to work on behalf of the customer to then inside of our portal identify that essentially that number that they're going to be calling out from, and they can put that specific 32 character string on that number. So they could have 100 numbers in 10 different batches of 10 numbers, and each of those batches could have a separate tag, so to speak. So you could have the big box retailer that has flooring installation. So these numbers could essentially say flooring installation. That could be separate from another batch of numbers, which would be appliance delivery or customer satisfaction, or you can imagine how you might do that. And so that's the flexibility we offer, and it essentially allows that specific number to carry that brand through the network. So it's really that simple.
It actually does sound really simple. And you talk about flexibility, Mike, and I think that's a great kind of opportunity to jump over to Mark with 448 Recruitment. Obviously, part of the reason we're here is to talk about the influence or the effect that First Orion's branded calling has on that company and their ability to find blood donors, and I mean, like, really critical stuff with urgent situations. Mark, how has First Orion's branded calling affected your business?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. Just a snippet of background. 448 Recruitment is a blood donor recruitment company. For the past 15 years, we have supported hospital-based blood donor programs and blood services and blood centers around the country. And you are right. What it is that we are doing is pretty critical. Our success, I like to say to our team, saves lives. But to answer your question specifically, bottom line, branded calling has helped us be more productive, be more successful at recruiting blood donors for our clients, those who are treating patients in the form of hospital-based blood donor programs, and those customers who are blood services or blood centers that are supplying hospitals who are treating patients at the end of the day. Branded calling, quite honestly, Brady, has been great for us. We are coming up on a year of benefiting from the technology that First Orion has made available to us. We have gotten more and more strategic with how we use branded calling and when we use branded calling, and the messaging, which Mike talked about, this 32 character string that displays on mobile devices. And we've gotten more strategic, and not to get too granular, but we've gotten more strategic because our goal at the end of the day is to increase the number of donors that we're talking to every hour. Our agents love talking to donors. They're incentivized based on their performance. The more donors they talk to, the more likely they are to achieve those incentives. And the more donors they talk to, it's kind of linear. The more appointments they schedule, and the more appointments they schedule, the more donations actually we're ultimately responsible for. But we consider ourselves a good actor. We use the telephone responsibly. We have ever since day one. It kind of differentiates us, I think, from some of our competitors. And when we found out about branded calling, actually back in August, I guess it was, of last year, man, we jumped all over it. It took me no less than a week to do the ROI, to justify the cost associated with it. And I have shared this on many a podcast and interview. I would not want to operate our company moving forward without having branded calling as a tool in our tool belt.
And again, I can't reiterate it enough. This is a really cool concept, a technology in use for a company that has a critical need for it. Mark, what are some of the business benefits that you've experienced since kind of jumping over to branded calling?
Yeah, another great question, Brady. I mean, again, it all boils down to engagement, conversations that we're having with blood donors, platelet donors, plasma donors, in some of the environments or some of the data sets that we're targeting. We've seen an increase in contacts per hour by as much as 40%. That increase in contacts, like I mentioned earlier, translates into more appointments, which translates into more donations. And our company, just to share, we are considered pay per performance or pay per productivity. So what we do needs to be productive. The ROI, from my perspective as the president and co-owner of the company, needs to be there. And because we've seen that increase, we're scheduling more appointments with the same amount of staff hours dedicated. Well, that translates from a bottom line standpoint into greater profitability, to be honest. But equally important, it translates into more productivity for our clients. The more blood they have on the shelves, the easier it is for them to be prepared for the next trauma patient, the next cancer patient, the next transplant patient. They've got that blood on the shelves, and that makes them happy. So honestly, because of our relationship for First Orion, the relationships we've got with our clients are solid. They're more stable because we're doing what they expect us to do, and we're doing it very well. Let me tell you about a particular use case scenario where branded calling literally saved lives. It happened about 8 months ago, Thanksgiving weekend. One of our longstanding clients in Central Texas, a large hospital-based program, the largest health system in the state, had a multi-car accident, multiple trauma patients taken to their ER. There was a fatality. A couple of the trauma patients happened to be O negative. We got a phone call, or my director of client relations got a phone call on Thanksgiving evening, which is when the accident happened. The O negative ER patients, of which there were two, basically cleared the hospital shelves of O negative blood. We don't normally recruit on holiday weekends. I like to have my staff enjoying time with family or whatever, but we brought a couple of folks in on Black Friday, the day after Black Friday. We had branded calling ready to go at the time. So surprising, double the appointments per hour by close of business on Wednesday, essentially 4-5 days after we started placing those telephone calls. We had another 28 O negative units on the shelf for our client, to be in reserve for the next patient that required that blood type. So when we talk about the benefit of branded calling, it really does save lives. I know for a fact in my 15 years in this space that we would have not gotten the response rate we got had we not had the client's name, O negative urgent appeal, show up on the mobile devices that we were calling. It was fantastic.
I mean, what's the reception been, for kind of distributing this technology?
Yeah, that's another great question, actually. 448 Recruitment is our blood donor recruitment company. 448 Connect is the company that we formed as a result of benefiting from First Orion's technology. That happened late Q4 of last year. Our initial focus, or our initial goal, has been to roll this technology out to everyone in our space. We have held a couple of webinars. We recently attended a very well attended trade show in Charlotte. The response has been great. We're in the middle of running a multi-million call per month campaign for one of the largest blood centers in the country. We are in negotiations with the premier blood center software company in discussing how to roll branded calling out to their clients and figure out a way to integrate the portal that Mike talked about kind of into their back end. And I would say, and Mike will probably hold me to this, we're looking to have probably 10 or 11 contracts in the hands of prospective customers here before the end of this month. It's been a blessing. We're more excited every day about the opportunity to resell this technology because it's what this industry needs. It's really unfortunate that the industry needs it, but it's fortunate that companies like First Orion have come up with the solution that Mike has actually described, because there's a lot of bad actors out there. You know, Brady, there's a lot of folks out there that are abusing the telephone, that are running scams and spam, trying to steal people's money, you know, and do things that are egregious and unethical. And that's where branded calling comes in. Good actors, good companies like us that are trying to do good things by using the telephone and talking to consumers. I mean, we're really fortunate that it separates us by using branded calling, because we want people to know who we are when we call. We want those in our industry to be able to benefit from that technology, because if you're transparent on the front end, like Mike said, it's going to increase the probability of you being successful during that call or on the back end. And that translates into a win for us, translates to a win for others who are in the blood banking space. And we're looking to branch out. I mean, we think there, like Mike has also said, that there are a lot of applications for this technology, companies that really place a high value, legitimate companies, good actors, those who place a high value on donor contact, on the value of that conversation, or I'm sorry, not donor contact, customer contact, the value of that conversation is significant to them. And this technology obviously is going to make more of those conversations happen.
Mike, let me kick it back to you, kind of bring it full circle here. As the representative from First Orion and obviously branded calling, what can we expect from the company and from the technology as we kind of move forward?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question. The CEO, Charles Morgan, asked me, he said, what do you need as we build out the channel here for First Orion? And I said, well, I really need a Super Bowl ad. This was back in December, right? I need to tell everybody at once that that branded calling exists, and to kind of, with Mark's help, to kind of evangelize the messaging here and the fact that this solution is very simple in its nature, but very powerful in its ability to deliver for the businesses and for the end customers. And so we're evolving the technology. So we've added an element called paired, which essentially through our API integration that Mark and his company and others can use, would essentially allow the company that's making calls on behalf of or with directly, the ability to give us the A number they're calling from and the B number they're calling to via that API. And we do a time to live, so that there's a 30 or 60 seconds, for example, such that when A is calling B, only during that very narrow window will the tag, essentially the brand, traverse the carrier network, because it provides another layer of anti-spoofing, if you will. So that's another technology that we've innovated and that we've launched in the marketplace. We're adding things like call blocking, where we can block calls that have been spoofed on behalf of another company or customer. And so things like that are starting to evolve, and soon follow-up SMS texting and things like that would be all part of an evolving solution that, having come from Samsung after many years running the channel there, I say we're kind of putting the call back in the cell phone, right? Because of late, the cell phones have become data devices, and we're missing the voice component, which is so powerful and as humans, really necessary. So we're kind of putting the call back in the cell phone. We're making it a lot more kind of successful, if you will, in terms of the connect between the company that's trying to reach you and the customer. And all in all, it's just been a wonderful ride, and we're super excited to share the word and hopefully get others to understand it, to hear about it, and then to be able to embrace it as Mark has here.
Well, it's really clear that so much thought has kind of gone into all this. Mike, if people want more information on branded calling or even just First Orion in general, where can they go online?
Yep. Best place to go would be firstorion.com. We have a partner specific component to the website called Partner Prime. Essentially, there's all kinds of referenceable customer cases, all kinds of information, visuals. There's the API access in terms of the portal. We have an open dev portal for developers to work with our APIs, for example. And so firstorion.com would be the place to go, or you could reach me, Mike Coleman. I'm the channel chief, and my email is mcoleman@firstorion.com. I'd be happy to chat with anybody that wants to reach out for more information.
It's fantastic. And Mark, same question for you. If people want more information on 448 recruitment or just 448 in general, where can they go?
Yeah, if they're interested in blood donor recruitment, 448recruitment.com. And if they are interested in 448 Connect, 448connect.com, which just as a little aside, and Mike talked about this as well, one of the things that we've jumped into as well, because it is an important component of benefiting from the branded calling technology, is we also have a service offering at 448 Connect that helps customers with making sure their numbers are clean, which we would consider like a caller ID reputation, which is an important component actually to making sure branded calling works well. But my email address, mark.sanger@448recruitment.com or mark.sanger@448connect.com. You can find me there.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Mark, so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. Mike as well. It's been great kind of learning about this incredible technology.
Well, we appreciate your time as well, Brady. Thank you so much for having me on the call today.
Yep. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it, Brady.
All right. And while you guys are online checking out First Orion and 448, don't forget to also visit channelvisionmag.com. On there, you can find on-demand versions of CVTVs and webinars, and of course, these great podcasts, as well as so much more. channelvisionmag.com. And this has been another edition of ChannelVision Podcasts. If you enjoyed it, my name is Brady Hicks. I'm a managing editor with ChannelVision Magazine. If you didn't enjoy it, well, we're not going to get into that for today, but hope everybody has a great day, and thanks for checking us out.